Imagine waking up one morning to a world transformed. Your backyard, once familiar, now resembles a polar landscape, an iceberg of frozen earth and crystalline trees. This isn't just a heavy winter storm. Your car, a modern machine of steel and glass, has become a fossil encased in ice, a relic of a warmer time. Starting it is not an option. It's a monument to a world that is rapidly disappearing. Inside, your heater groans and protests, its metallic clangs and hisses sounding like a distant mechanical storm. It's fighting a losing battle against a cold that seeps through every wall, every window, every crack. This isn't just a cold snap. This is a signal, a warning of a profound and terrifying shift. What if our planet was suddenly thrown into a deep freeze, a rapid onset ice age reminiscent of the Huronian glaciation? This ancient event, over 2 billion years ago, was one of the most severe ice ages in Earth's history, potentially encasing the entire planet in a sheet of ice, a snowball Earth. Unlike the slow, grinding advance of past ice ages that took millennia, imagine this happening on a human timescale. Not over centuries, but over a few short seasons. A climatic flash freeze. The Huronian event was triggered by geological and atmospheric changes over vast periods. But what if modern triggers could replicate its effects with terrifying speed? This is the cold shock countdown, a hypothetical scenario where our complex, interconnected world faces a sudden, catastrophic plunge into ice. How could such a drastic shift even begin? Scientists point to several potential, albeit low-probability triggers. One of the most cited is a massive volcanic event, or a series of them. A super eruption could inject colossal amounts of sulfur dioxide and ash into the stratosphere. This material wouldn't just block sunlight, it would form a persistent veil of reflective aerosols, creating a planetary sunshade. The effect would be a rapid and dramatic global cooling, a phenomenon known as a volcanic winter. While most volcanic winters are temporary, a sufficiently large or strategically located series of eruptions could theoretically tip the climate system past a critical threshold. Another pathway involves runaway climate feedbacks. Our climate is a complex system of interconnected loops. For example, as polar ice melts, the darker ocean water absorbs more sunlight, leading to more warming and more melting. But feedback loops can also work in reverse. A sudden, significant cooling event could rapidly expand snow and ice cover. This bright white surface would reflect more sunlight back into space, further cooling the planet and creating even more ice. This is the ice albedo feedback. If this cycle were to accelerate uncontrollably, it could lock the planet into a colder state with alarming speed. Other factors, like a prolonged solar minimum, a period of significantly reduced solar activity, could exacerbate such a cooling trend, though on its own it's considered insufficient to trigger an ice age. In the immediate weeks following the trigger, the changes would be unmistakable. Global average temperatures would dive, not by a degree or two over a century, but by 5, 10, or even more degrees within a single season. The first sign would be winters that don't end. Spring would fail to arrive. The cold would simply deepen. Daylight itself would change. With a persistent aerosol shield in the atmosphere, the sun would appear as a pale, distant disk. Days would be perpetually dim, cast in a gray twilight gloom. The psychological effect of losing the sun would be immense, a constant, oppressive reminder of the new reality. Weather patterns would become violently unpredictable as the atmosphere struggles to find a new equilibrium. The jet stream could fracture, sending relentless polar vortexes plunging deep into temperate zones, bringing unprecedented blizzards and ice storms. The impact on our civilization would begin with the very foundation of its survival: food. The growing seasons of the northern hemisphere would be obliterated. Crops would fail on a continental scale, not just from frost, but from the lack of sufficient sunlight and warmth. Harvests wouldn't just be poor, they would cease to exist. The world's breadbaskets in North America, Europe, and Asia would become frozen wastelands. The intricate global food supply chain, a marvel of modern logistics, would shatter. Next, the arteries of our society, our infrastructure, would seize up. Power grids, already strained by normal winter demand, would face an impossible load. The relentless cold would cause transmission lines to become brittle and snap under the weight of accumulating ice. Transformers would fail. Permafrost, which normally takes millennia to form, would begin to creep south in a matter of weeks, heaving the ground and destroying underground cables and foundations. Widespread, indefinite blackouts would become the norm. Transportation would grind to a halt. Airports would be the first to close, their runways buried under impassable layers of ice and snow. De-icing would become a futile exercise against a cold that never relents. Highways would become impassable corridors of abandoned vehicles, trapping goods and people. The supply chains that deliver fuel, medicine, and food would collapse entirely. Trucks would be stalled, trains frozen to their tracks, and ports iced over. Within weeks, cities would be cut off, isolated islands in a sea of white. Cities, the pinnacles of human achievement, would become death traps. Without power, heating systems would fail. Water pipes would freeze and burst, cutting off sanitation and drinking water. Millions would be left in dark, freezing high-rises, facing a battle for survival against an enemy they cannot fight, the cold itself. Municipal services would be overwhelmed, struggling to clear even a few critical routes in a never-ending battle against the snow. Faced with such a scenario, our survival would depend not on resistance, but on adaptation and preparedness. The immediate priority would be shelter. Governments and communities would need to rapidly establish large-scale, geothermally or nuclearly powered communal shelters. These wouldn't be temporary emergency centers, but long-term habitats designed to sustain populations through months or even years of extreme cold. Our infrastructure would require a complete overhaul. We would need to build hardened, decentralized power grids, perhaps relying on next-generation nuclear reactors or deep geothermal wells that are immune to surface weather. Key infrastructure would need to be buried deep underground, below the new frost line. Winterizing equipment would mean developing new materials and technologies capable of functioning at temperatures far below current specifications. Food security would have to be reimagined. Surface agriculture would be impossible. The solution would lie beneath the ground, in vast, insulated hydroponic and aeroponic farms, powered by the same resilient energy sources as the shelters. We would need to cultivate massive stockpiles of long shelf-life staples, creating strategic food reserves on a national and local level, sufficient to last for years. On a personal level, survival would become a science of staying warm. The mantra would be layering. Multiple layers of clothing, starting with a moisture-wicking base layer and finishing with a windproof and waterproof outer shell, would be essential for anyone venturing outside. Exposure to the elements would have to be strictly limited, measured in minutes, not hours. Frostbite and hypothermia would be constant, deadly threats. But the most critical survival tool would be community. In a world without centralized services, neighbors would become first responders. Regularly checking on the elderly and vulnerable would be a vital duty. Sharing resources, from a thermos of hot water to spare batteries, would be the difference between life and death. The social fabric, our ability to cooperate and care for one another, would be tested like never before. It's crucial to separate fact from fiction. Is a rapid onset ice age likely? The overwhelming scientific consensus is no. The triggers required are extreme, and the Earth's climate system has powerful stabilizing forces. The current dominant trend is one of warming, not cooling. However, the study of abrupt climate change is a serious field. Scientists use these extreme scenarios not as predictions, but as stress tests to understand the vulnerabilities in our climate system and our society. The myth is that this is a certainty, The fact is that it represents a low probability, high impact risk that highlights the importance of resilience. Our current technology gives us unprecedented monitoring capabilities. We can track volcanic plumes, measure solar output, and model atmospheric changes with incredible detail. This gives us the power of foresight. While we may not be able to instantly reverse a mass cooling event, we could potentially see the warning signs weeks or months in advance. This lead time would be the most precious resource on Earth, allowing us to activate contingency plans and prepare. So, what is the takeaway? The answer is not panic, but calm, rational action. The cold shock scenario, while hypothetical, serves as a powerful allegory for any major systemic disruption, be it a pandemic, a financial collapse, or an environmental crisis. The principles of preparedness are universal. Plan quietly and sensibly. This means having a basic emergency kit with food, water, batteries, and a radio. It means having a family communication plan. It means understanding the risks specific to your area and having a plan to mitigate them. These are not alarmist reactions. They are sensible steps that build personal and community resilience against any disruption. We must respect the immense power of nature. Our planet's systems operate on scales that dwarf human endeavors. They are powerful, complex, and contain the potential for sudden, dramatic shifts. Acknowledging this power is not a sign of fear, but of wisdom. The cold shock countdown may be a thought experiment, but the forces it represents are very real. By understanding them, preparing for them, and above all, working together, we strengthen our ability to face whatever future may come. Stay warm, stay connected, and stay prepared.